Shine on, you crazy diamond! Basket Case is now a jewel of an F100, ready for a DIY wiring kit. Plus, how to fab up a custom exhaust. That and more today on Truck Tech.
Today, we have two of our most popular projects in the shop that we need to make some headway on and get them both closer to the finish line. And the first is this 71 C10 that's powered by the new LT1 crate engine. It's riding on airbags and it's going to be a daily driver when we're done with it.
And our 55 F100 show truck. We've got all the panels painted and we've made great progress getting this thing back together. And today I'll show you how to bring out that shine by wet sanding and buffing, along with installing the instrument cluster and all the wiring.
For the past few months, our 71 C10 has been sitting outside in the warehouse waiting on new parts to arrive. And as you can see, well, most of them have shown up. So I'm going to show you guys how to build a custom exhaust system that exits through the side of the bed, and we'll take care of some of that last minute plumbing. But first, we got to get the truck cleaned off and back down to a bare frame.
Let's make this the last time we take this cab off. How about that?
All right, well, let's get this out of here. Every exhaust system starts at the cylinder head, and attached to our LT1 heads from the factory were a set of C7 Corvette style center dump cast iron exhaust manifolds. And we knew right away they weren't going to work for our application because they dump directly in the middle of our C10's frame. So unless we wanted to cut the frame in half, they just weren't going to work. So I ordered a pair of LT1 swap prototype headers that are designed off of an LS swap header. Now these long tubes, they almost fit. It's actually kind of close. But these last two primary tubes actually interfere with both the starter and the bell housing. So that's really not an option and not worth the effort it would take to move the tubes around and make it work. Now the set of shorty headers, well, that's definitely a step in the right direction. Out of the box, they're very, very close to fitting. Now, this flange almost hit the starter, so I took a little bit of time, I cut off the collector and added this little bit of a kick out to make it clear the starter and give us excellent ground clearance. And we'll start by getting these bolted up. To work well with the 460 horsepower of our LT1, we need to run 3-inch exhaust. So we went to Borla and picked up a stainless Universal Hot Rod Series builder kits. And it starts with these two 5-foot long sections of pipe. The kit also includes 4 180s, 4 90s, and 4 45s. So we'll have more than enough material to get the exhaust from the engine out the back of our C10. Now we also needed some mufflers, so we picked up a set of their crate mufflers. Now they're made from 304 stainless steel. They're directional and they'll really bring out the sound of our 460 horsepower LT1. And our exhaust starts by making some flanges. Our headers have a 2.5-inch collector flange, so I'm starting with a bare flange connected directly to a 2.5-inch to 3-inch transition. After it's tacked, I will bolt it to the headers. Exact placement is critical here. To connect the muffler to the header, I need to go up and over using 2 45s. I prefer to cut the pipe a few times and sneak up on the finished length, since I don't really have a pipe stretcher in my toolbox. Anytime you're TIGging up an exhaust, surface preparation is very important for a quality, consistent weld. Now, when they manufacture these mandrel bends, the inside of the pipe is actually lubricated to make it stretch easier. But that lubrication will actually ruin your weld. It burns off and just gets all contaminated. So anytime I'm about to start an exhaust project, I use a little bit of acetone and I wipe off the inside and outside of the weld area. It'll dry quickly and remove all that oily residue, making for a nice, clean, consistent weld. 2-inch masking tape holds it in place while tacking. You can buy special clamps to do this, but a $7 roll of tape works just fine for me. With the front pipe tacked together, next I'll check fitment to the collector. And when I'm happy, that also gets tack welded. The entire piece gets checked one last time for perfect alignment. Once it's all welded together, the process gets repeated on the passenger side for a clean, symmetrical look.
Most trucks won't go anywhere without electricity or wiring to get it where it needs to go. Now, our F100 came to us as an incomplete project and we didn't get any wiring with the truck. Our 3.5 EcoBoost has its own control harness which will run the engine. But the rest of the truck has nothing. No lights, turn signals, brake lights, or anything. So rather than trying to find a 50-year-old harness and adapt it to our needs, we're stepping into the 21st century and wiring our truck with some help from Ron Francis Wiring and their express wiring kit. The heart of the kit is this 18-circuit fuse panel. All the circuits come neatly labeled for fast and easy installation, and it will handle the higher amperage demands of our modern fuel-injected powertrain. Comes with all the necessary harnesses for headlights and taillights, and will integrate perfectly with our Ford Performance engine control harness. But since our truck didn't come with anything electrical, we opted for a few extras, like this key switch, courtesy lights, and a headlight dimmer switch. And luckily for us, our kit also came with Scott Bowers. He's the head honcho at Ron Francis Wiring, and he agreed to come in and lend us a hand on wiring up this truck.
Good to be here, Jeremy.
Yeah, man, we're glad to have you. Oh, you've had a minute to look around at the truck. What do you think about it so far?
It's a really clean project. I'm looking forward to getting involved.
Thanks, man. This is an awesome kit you got here. Really clean, nicely labeled and everything. But average guy at home, when he gets this kit, what does it normally take installation time?
Well, it really depends on the installer's ability level and how complex the build is, but usually about a weekend.
Right. Well, that's good, man. And also, you guys have very detailed instructions. Not only that, tech help. So, makes it a lot easier for the average guy.
We really try to put everything in place to make for it a good, successful install.
Cool, man. Right on. Well, wiring a truck like this that pretty much has nothing right now, where's the first place you'd start?
Well, what we need to do first is mount the fuse panel and the switches.
Sheet metal screws will attach it to the kick panel. And while Scott lays out the wiring, I can drill for both the ignition and light switches. We've called on Scott's expertise before. He helped Tommy and Joe wire up their 49 Ford last season and pitched in on our Give Back 55 Handyman wagon by volunteering to wire it up,
And you hold this. Hold it right there.
along with some help from his son Kyle, who's now part of the Ron Francis team. He's not just a business owner. Scott's a full-on gearhead who loves what he does.
I have a very interesting job. I run a company that sells a lot of products to a really neat industry, passionate people who are building project cars. While I don't get out in the field very often, it's really neat to get your hands dirty and use the products that you're building. This is called an open barrel terminal because it's actually open. I've also brought along one of these tools. What it does is it actually properly brings the flaps of the terminal over and clover leaves into the conductor for a good crimp, just like factory. So how do you know what connector system to use on your project? Well, on the front of this truck, it's going to be wet, so it makes sense to use a weatherproof weather pack connector system. But if you needed something a little simpler, you can use a non-weatherproof connector system elsewhere in the vehicle. The guys are working on a really neat project here, and despite the simplicity in the wiring, this truck's going to have some really cool things on it. It's got an EcoBoost 3.5 twin turbocharged engine that is really cutting edge. It's got a suspension that's going to be able to handle the truck really well, and it's going to be like a pro touring type element.
The biggest challenge when fabricating a bedside exit exhaust is getting the pipes from the inside of the frame rail to the outside. Now there's a couple different ways we can do it, but you can see I actually went over the frame. We also could have cut a hole in the side of the frame, but that's kind of a last resort option. I actually took advantage of a natural space between the bed floor and the frame rail. There's plenty of space to pass the pipes up and over. I need 45 degrees of bend to get above the frame, so I'll take it from this 180. I do need a bit more length on the straight leg, so I'll also tack on an 8-inch long piece of straight pipe to the end. With this Borla exhaust tubing, I'm setting the TIG to 70 amps. One cool tip I've learned about TIG welding is actually in the gloves. I prefer to wear a MIG welding glove on my right hand because that's the hand I hold the torch in, and you often have to set it on a piece of metal that's a little bit warm. And on my left hand, I wear a TIG glove because you can have really fine control of the filler wire. I need a 90-degree bend to get to the top of the frame rail. The stock length works, so it'll get tacked to the first two pieces of the tailpipe. On the driver's side, I made a 20-degree sweep to the rear. So, to match that, I'll use an angle finder. Do you have to be this precise when you're building an exhaust? Well, no. But a quality finished product is important. So, take your time, be patient, and the results will speak for themselves. Well, we've got our tailpipe mocked up, and it does exactly what we need it to do. It clears the bed brace, it clears the bed floor, and it clears the frame with plenty of room to spare on all counts. Now, when we throw the bed back on this truck, we just have to make a small notch in the bottom and add one little tip to this exhaust system, and it's done. Well, minus a little finish welding I have to take care of.
All right, Scott, go ahead and give the headlights a shot. Yep, dims work. Go ahead and try the brights. Yeah, man, it looks good. One shot.
Good deal. Well, I just left a couple things for you guys to finish up. You have to put the connectors on those taillights.
Cool, man. That's not a problem. We'll take care of it. We really appreciate you coming out, man. That's a big step accomplished.
No worries. Nice
Good job, man.
man.
Appreciate it. No custom paint job is complete without the final step. It's called cutting and buffing. Now, lay down around 4 coats of clear on our F100 to get that show quality shine. And from a distance, it looks pretty good. But if you get in here close, you can see that it's not perfect. There's just a few small specks of trash along with orange peel. Now, what's orange peel? It's basically just a texture that looks just like an orange. Let's face it, we're human. The clear's not gonna flow out of the gun with that smooth as glass finish. So when you see a car at a show and it looks smooth as glass, or it looks like the paint's still wet with no trace of orange peel, it's been cut and buffed. Now, what I mean by cut is I'm actually gonna sand the panel with a fine grit paper, cutting down a coat of clear. And well, all you guys know what buffing is. That's the process we're gonna take to bring that show quality shine back. So I'll mark off a section of this hood and show you guys how to make a finished paint job pop. You'll often see me clean a panel over and over again, even during the painting process. If there was a small speck of dust or dirt and I start sanding, I could bury the debris deeper in the clear, which would make it difficult to sand out. I'll tape off a section of the hood so you can see a before and after. Then start with 1500 grit on a sanding block. Using a block here is key to flattening out the clear, and making sure the panel is good and wet with water will make sanding a lot easier. There are many ways you can accomplish this. I like to use 1500 grit and step up to 2000, but you can even start with 1000 grit, but be careful because it cuts it very quickly. Now, they even have DAs or soft backing pads for a DA that you can go all the way up to 3000 grit and make pretty quick work of it. Next, I'll step down to 2000 grit paper and go through the same process. The goal here is to rid the panel of the 1500 grit scratches we made so we're not spending as much time running the buffer. Any remaining flaws will disappear during the next step. Now we're ready to start buffing. Now, rotary buffers, they're pretty good. I've used them for years. You would normally start out with a wool pad, which is pretty aggressive and messy. Then you would step down to a couple of other pads, and next thing you know, you're fighting swirls and all that good stuff. But not only that, these create heat. So when you have brand new paint, it doesn't take long to damage that. So I prefer Orbital style polishers like this one from Chemical Guys. This is their TORQ 22D Random Orbital Polisher Kit. It includes the polisher, pads from cutting all the way to finishing, and samples of their V-line compounds. Now we'll start out with their orange cutting pad and just a little bit of their extreme compound. I'll begin with the TORQ 22D on low. And once I have good coverage, I kick up the orbital speed to 40. Again, using a cross motion pattern running the length of the panel. This Chemical Guys polisher has no trigger, which means no hand fatigue on big projects. And the digital readout takes the guesswork out of maintaining a consistent speed. Once we've got a nice shine over the area, we can swap to the white pad and polish compound. Now this will keep bringing up the gloss of the panel along with removing any swirls that we may have. And one more swap to the black buffing pad and their final polish. A few passes with this on slow speed won't cut any more clear and will just give us an awesome shine and protection. Now I'll remove our tape and kill some of our lights. And with the camera moving across the hood, you can really see the difference. Untouched on the right shows the pattern of the clear coat right out of the gun, and the left side a flat, smooth mirror finish. Now this section took about 45 minutes, and well, for the rest of the truck, it'll take a minimum of probably about 40 hours, so who wants to help?
Next, how to get fuel to the LT1.
We're making great progress on our 71 C10 today. We have our stainless steel exhaust all done, and when I put the bed back on, all I have to do is cut a notch and run the exhaust out the side. So now we'll turn our attention to the fuel system. Now most EFI engines require between 40 and 50 pounds of fuel pressure to run properly, but our LT1 is a little bit unique. It needs 70 pounds of pressure at the inlet of the high pressure fuel pump. So we could just run an external electric fuel pump and mount it to the frame, but they're usually very noisy and something you don't want to have to listen to every single day. So we found something better. Because we have a fuel tank that was designed for carbureted applications, we really need more than just a fuel pump. We need a way to hold it inside the tank. And this is the Aeromotive Phantom in-tank fuel system. And the heart of it is this pump that's good for about 700 horsepower. So we know we're covered on our little LT1. It also comes with this trick aluminum fuel hat that has -6 ports for feed, return, and the vent. This system will work with tanks between 6 and 11 inches deep. Plus, optional extenders are available for tanks deeper than that. It also comes with this pretty trick baffle system that'll keep the pump fully submerged in fuel, even under harsh acceleration, cornering, and braking conditions. And the first step for us is to make a hole in that tank. Find a location for the pump in the deepest part of the tank between the baffles. Use a hole saw to cut the opening and deburr the edges. Use the supplied fixture to drill 2 holes, slide in the alignment screws, and drill the remaining holes. Be sure to clean out all the metal shavings from the tank. Measure the depth of the tank and if necessary trim the baffle. Ours was 11 inches deep, so no trimming required. The fixture also acts as a guide to slide in the baffle. Next, slide the retaining ring into the tank and the studs up through the holes. We now have to assemble the pump hanger, and it does have to be trimmed to fit. Mark for the fuel line, cut to length, and attach it with the clamp. Lastly, secure the pump to the hanger. Slide the supplied gasket over the studs, drop in the pump, and tighten it down. Finish up by attaching the fuel line. When restoring your classic Chevy truck, there's a lot of small, hard-to-find pieces that can make or break your restoration. And Brothers Trucks is the place to go when you need those parts, like these for the 54 to 55 Chevy windshield wiper system. You can start with a 12-volt electric motor that replaces the unreliable vacuum style from the factory. You can also get new windshield wiper transmission arms that come with new bushings and splines, wiper arms, and even the factory-style wiper blades to finish off that look. You can grab yours at brotherstrucks.com.
Rust is one thing that frustrates us car guys more than anything. It takes a ton of work to remove, and then once you get it gone, you quickly have to take steps to prevent new rust from forming on your bare parts. This is Workshop Hero's Metal Rescue. It's a safe, non-toxic rust remover bath. It'll remove rust with minimal effort. But how do you protect that bare metal? Well, with Dry Coat Rust Preventative. It sprays on and dries to the touch, so you don't have to worry about any sticky residue, and it prevents new rust from forming. And when you're ready to paint, this stuff easily washes off. Visit WorkshopHero.com.
Well, it's been a productive week at the shop. We've got a brand new exhaust system in the C10, and we finished up the fuel pump.
Yeah, we've got the F100 wired up and all ready to go, and we've got her cut and buffed, and she's looking pretty good. Now, next time you guys see this C10, we're going to finish up that rust repair we started, get it undercoated, and maybe even do a little painting.
I don't know, you think? That's a little ambitious.
Well, you going to stay around and help this time?
No, I got greasy hands. I can't touch paint.
Strip that frame now. You were crying about that the whole time.
Oh, I know. I'm a baby.